All right, joining us now, Travis McMichael's defense team, Jason Sheffield and Robert Rubin. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. Truly appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Michael. Thank you for allowing us to be on the show.
All right, so we're on the eve of this thing wrapping up and the jury getting the case. You've already delivered your final words to the jury. I want to get a sense from the both of you. How do you feel right now about your case?
We feel very good. We feel like this jury has been extremely attentive, that this jury from the outset has decided that they are going to do the job that is required of them. And I feel that our presentation of evidence today was as good as it can get to help them understand the truth about this case, what Travis was seeing, thinking, feeling, and believing on this tragedy.
All right, now let's begin and talk about Travis taking the stand. I mean, that was an interesting decision, one that many observers, including myself, thought was perhaps a little risky. So I want to get a sense from you as to what that process was like in making the decision to put him on the stand.
I can tell you that when we first met Travis McMichael in May of 2020, we walked out of that jail and both turned to each other and said, we believe everything he just told us, which is not what happens in every client meeting, especially the first time. And I think we both agreed that from that moment on, we knew Travis had to testify and tell his story the way he told it to us in May of 2020. So it really was not a hard decision to make. We knew he had to testify, he had to explain to the jury why he took the actions he took, and really justify his actions for the jury. They had to feel him and feel what he felt back in February 2020.
But Travis also wanted to take the stand. Travis knew that the jury was going to want to hear from him, to hear his accounts, to look him in his face, to stare at him into his eyes and hear him explain why he did what he thought and felt and believed he had to do to save his life and to save his father's life. There was no doubt in his mind that he would take the stand in his trial.
Now, there were a number of steps along the way during that confrontation with Ahmaud Arbery that can be questioned in terms of the decisions that he made. How do you think he did on the stand? Do you think he convinced this jury that, in fact, for instance, going for the gun when Arbery was, let's say, 40 to 50 feet away from the truck was because he wanted to protect himself or he feared for his father's life and his own?
I think Travis did an excellent job of walking the jury through everything that he ever thought and felt about Mr. Arbery. Obviously, he never knew this person by name, but he had several months' worth of encounters with him, all culminating in a break-in on February 11th, which scared him to death. Then, on the 23rd, when he understands this gentleman is back, he sets out to very carefully, to very thoughtfully investigate this case with the goal of confirming who he is, talking to him to see if he can get him to speak about his conduct and behavior, and then to stop and detain him for police. Travis's actions on that day were very consistent with who he is, who he's been trained to be through the Coast Guard, someone who will investigate and make informed decisions. We feel like he did that very well.
I'll tell you, Michael, we think and like to think that jurors make decisions with their head. But the truth is, and science proves it, is we all make decisions with our gut. And if the jurors could feel Travis McMichael's feelings, both on the witness stand and how he must have felt on the 23rd, then I think we succeeded. I think Travis was very good at getting the jury to understand him from an emotional standpoint.
Now, that's all well and good. Now, whenever I listen to closing arguments, and I want to commend you for your closing argument today, Jason, I thought you did a fantastic job. But as I sat there and listened, like a juror who's watched all the evidence in the trial, it sounded to me like you came perilously close to blaming the victim. And I thought maybe, I don't know if you crossed the line, but I want to get a sense from you to explain to me and to our viewers, were you in fact saying that the decisions that Arbery made that day were the reasons he ended up in that position and not the decisions made by your client?
It was and is very difficult to talk about an encounter between two men that caused those two men to come to hand-to-hand combat over a gun without talking about both of them. That being said, our goal was to tell Travis's story, to tell what was in Travis's mind, to say what Travis believed, and to take all the facts and circumstances that were presented to him by Mr. Arbery and explain how he interpreted those things. So while I did have to talk about Mr. Arbery, and I did have to talk about his conduct and his behavior, we tried to do so through the lens of Travis McMichael, because that's really all that matters. And those things that Travis heard, the things that he saw, the things that he experienced, and the absence of things that Mr. Arbery didn't do or didn't say, all informed Travis and led him to ultimately fear for his life. So I agree with you. It is a fine line, and we are not here to blame Mr. Arbery. We are not here to try to bring any shame upon him or his family. Rather, to talk about what happened that day. And you can't talk about this event that involves two people without talking about the both of them.
I have to tell you, Michael,
Yes.
our goal from the outset was to try this case in a professional, dignified manner, which was respectful to the Arbery family, but doing our best to represent Travis McMichael's interests. And I hope we accomplished that. I'm sure people were offended by saying anything about Mr. Arbery, but it was done in a way in which we hopefully did not blame him for character issues or for things that were not in evidence, that were inappropriate. We were sensitive to the family and to Wanda Cooper Jones and Mr. Arbery. We tried to keep that in mind through every direct and cross-examination.
All right, fair enough. I want to ask you about the defense in general. There was some sort of unified or streamlined defense. You guys were working together, Greg McMichael, Travis McMichael. Tell me about that relationship and how that might have helped or hindered your cases.
Well, these are two men who had experienced a lot of the same experiences together. Obviously, they lived together, they're family members, and they had been going through the same type of fright-filled experiences that had been happening in the neighborhood. They're also two men who have been committed to serving their community and their state and their country through law enforcement and investigation and detection. And so we felt it was natural for us to align with Greg McMichael's team so that this father and son could be represented together as much as possible. Obviously, there are some moments where we do have to separate and we do have to go our own ways. But in terms of what happened that day, why they left their house that day, and why they went throughout that neighborhood trying to stop and detain Mr. Arbery, their defenses are very united.
Now, there was an issue hanging over the trial, obviously, going on outside of the courthouse. Now, initially, when Kevin Goff brought this up, you sort of were very vehemently against it. And then I think at one point you even joined in one of his motions. And then again, you came out and spoke to the folks and seemed to be against it. Where do you stand on what's going on outside the courthouse? And have you found any evidence at all that it might be affecting what's going on inside the courthouse?
You know, it's a fine line to balance on. On the one hand, we fully respect everyone's rights to be heard, to speak their minds. The people outside the courthouse have been very respectful to us. They've been very peaceful. Honestly, until the last 2 days, there haven't been very many people out there at all. There was no need to throw gasoline on a incendiary situation, and I think that's what Mr. Goff did with some of his comments earlier. On the other hand, once things start getting ramped up, it's our duty, like every other lawyer's duty, is to protect their client. And to the extent that some of these outside matters can influence the jury, we need to be vigilant, and that's what we're trying to do. And it's a balance.
You know, it's interesting. I was surprised early on that there were no attempts to change venue. What was going on outside the courthouse sort of brings that up for me when I think about it. And I said, oh, I wondered why they didn't do that, considering a couple of things. One, the publicity it had gotten. Two, it was a smaller community. I want to get from you if that was strategic on your point, thinking that perhaps you could get a favorable jury. And if at the end of the day, it seems like you might have gotten a jury that, at least on its face, can be considered favorable to the defense.
Yeah, we have to take that day by day, moment by moment. We were not convinced that we couldn't find fair-minded and impartial jurors here in Glynn County. We understood that this case had been widely reported. We understood up and down the East Coast, across the middle of the country, and all the way to the West Coast, that this case was a hot topic, all the way up to the president and former presidents of the United States. That's going to travel with us wherever we go. What we understood, though, is that there are citizens here in Glynn County who believe in the justice process, who believe in the truth-seeking process, who believe in the jury trial system, who believe that it is fair to have your day in court. And as we began to get to know these jurors, while most of them, probably 3/4 of the jurors that came through jury selection, already had an emotional opinion and decision made about this case, there were others that didn't. And as we continued to assess them, talk to them, get to know them, they convinced us that they were the right jurors. And we are glad about having this case in Glynn County. It needs to be decided by the residents who live here, who will be most impacted by the verdict.
All right, this is the last question that I'll send you gentlemen on your way. In terms of trying this case in front of this particular jury, there was also this issue of motions to sever. The fact that William Roddy Bryant perhaps had some information that could be detrimental to Travis's case. And I noticed in your closing, you said something about if you want to know how Travis felt about what went on, just check his reaction after. And as we know, there was some information out there by William Roddy Bryant that there was the use of the N-word over the body of Ahmaud Arbery. But you were lucky enough that this case wasn't severed, that never came in front of this jury. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I can tell you that although that would have been a horrendous piece of evidence to come in, had it come in, we were totally prepared for it. There is no way Roddy Bryant heard what he claims to have heard. He was 90 feet away from Travis McMichael at the time he claims to have heard it. Daniel Alcott, who was the neighbor whose yard this took place in, who was at the front of his house, didn't hear anything. Police officers didn't hear anything. The first statement to Glynn County Police Department on scene when he's asked, "What did you hear?" never said a word about it. We strongly believe that the only reason that came up is because Roddy Bryant was looking to make a deal by the fourth interview, which is the first time he said it. So although, you know, it would have been horrendous had it come in, we were totally prepared to discredit Mr. Bryant.
And not only that, but Greg McMichael was on the phone with 911 on an open line that the state took and provided to an audio enhancement expert who listened very carefully, and you know that it would have gotten that because the phone was open and sitting just 10 feet from where Travis was.
Yeah.
But there was no evidence of that whatsoever. It just simply wasn't true.
All right, well, gentlemen, listen, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight and for your candor. I truly appreciate you answering these questions. Not a lot of attorneys would have, so I truly appreciate that. And again, I will wish you the best of luck going forward as this case continues. And hopefully we find some sense of justice for all sides in this case. Again, have a great night.
We thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
All right, no problem at all. Again, Robert Rubin, Jason Sheffield, attorneys for Travis McMichael.